And welcome to the trade on this Monday. But before we take a look at what traders are watching, well, the charts at least, let's take a look at that news that is influencing investment decisions. US President-elect Donald Trump speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin and advising him not to escalate the Ukraine war as President Joe Biden plans to urge Trump not to abandon Kyiv. Minneapolis Fed Reserve President Neil Kashkari saying widespread deportation of foreign-born workers from the US probably would disrupt some businesses, but the impact on inflation and broad economy would depend on the detail. And the US has ordered Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing to halt shipments of advanced chips to Chinese customers that are often used in AI applications. All right, let's get into those charts that matter. Gary Glover joining us now from Novus Capital. Gary, good to catch up with you on this Monday. Plenty to watch at the moment, not the least, of course, what we're seeing in the resources sector, and some of the big companies actually hit hard this morning. This is off the back of, the Chinese stimulatory package announced on Friday has underwhelmed the market. What are you seeing there with the big miners?
Yeah, I mean, last time Trump was in office there, I think financials, energy and materials were probably the three biggest beneficiaries over the period. So just sectors to watch here. Although if your financials, have been pretty firm here, they do look a bit extended here, really. Valuations aren't exactly on the low side there. I think every analyst there is wary of most of the financials here being a little bit on the pricey side there, but materials probably offer a bit more value. I guess technically we've just seen a nice rally out of that September low, and now prices sort of come back about half of that range. So just as long as these materials sort of hold in the top half, I think that's a good sign there. Even with a little bit of negativity overnight here, as long as they hold that sort of midpoint there, I think it's still pretty healthy.
Well, let's take a look at some stock specifics, beginning with Rio. What are you seeing?
Yeah, on the technical pattern there, we're sort of seeing that pullback. I mean, had a really impulsive move out of that low, so big sort of impulsive rally. Now we've sort of come back half of that range, and then the next pullback has been sort of shallower again, and then the last pullback shallower again. So we're just sort of starting to see a bit of contraction in the price there. Has come back today, has held that low, which is probably pretty important for Rio. You don't want to sort of probably see it break that last sort of swing low there, sort of small block there. So just want to make sure she holds above the 50% of the range there. And still, that'll still leave it in a reasonable position to move higher here and maybe go back and retest that 131 sort of high there. Maybe get something like 132 or something slightly higher there.
In the same space, of course, Fortescue. What are you seeing?
Yeah, similar sort of pattern there. We're sort of probably a little tighter than the Rio one there. Rio's a little looser there, but Fortescue's had a nice rally there. Pretty good volumes on that rally. It's probably the key thing there. And we've sort of pulled back. There's definitely been less participation on the pullback, so sort of selling, sort of drying up here. Did sort of threaten to break out there Friday, but sort of came back in the range. Has come back and just undercut that low there this morning, but just important to sort of see whether they can hold that sort of upper half here. So kind of key levels here for a lot of those materials. But yeah, they do need to sort of hold these sort of lows there. A small undercut's okay, but if they close sort of firmly underneath, that's probably what we don't want to see. Yeah.
Now, another stock that has been under tremendous pressure, so a big pullback, has been in mineral resources, given the issues at the top of the company. I guess the question for investors, is that a buying opportunity?
Yeah, I think so, Andrew. I think we've sort of seen, obviously, fairly large pullback there. It's actually that low there is a 150% expansion of the previous sort of weekly range. So it's a bit of a key level technically. Had a pretty big bounce from there on some pretty healthy volume. Again, we've sort of pulled back. We've seen volume again here over the last week or two. We've seen, really, really high volumes there. So oftentimes when you sort of, the stock sort of, when you see big volume there, you sort of ask yourself one question there: is it accumulation or is it distribution? And that sort of often will depend on where it is in the chart. So technically, we're down the bottom end of the chart here, very much so for the last 12 months there. So it does look like possible accumulation taking place down here. Again, sort of just needs to sort of hold that low. The thing I do like is it's sort of rallied for 4 weeks, now pulled back the same amount of time and actually held that low in place. So that's pretty constructive. One of the more interesting aspects actually with mineral resources and the other two as well, Rio, Fortescue, is that seasonally November and December are two of the strongest months. Over the last 10 years for mineral resources, it's averaged 11% return in November. So that's a massive seasonal swing. So only one down year in the last 10, and some really big positive years in there. So I think so we've had 10.9% for Nov, and I think 4.38% December there. So you're talking about a 15% plus move in the last 2 months of the year. And I think Fortescue has been 5% in Nov, 6.27% in December. Rio is around 3.5 and 4 for Nov and December. So these stocks, these materials, they do have a seasonal bias to actually finish the year out strongly. So no guarantees. These are only probabilities, but seasonally, these stocks do have a really strong finish to the year around this sort of early Nov, which we're right in that window at the moment.
And Gary, would that apply for mining royalties in Deterra?
Yeah, a little bit similar as well. This one it's obviously sort of come back quite a bit here to Terra there. Hasn't quite had the same sort of bounce here as the other sort of materials there, but it has again pulled back on some pretty light volume as well. So if I'm not wrong here, I think that this one's probably sitting around sort of 7 or 8% yield at the moment. So interesting business there, obviously with the royalties on the miners there. It does have a mix of miners there. It does. Obviously, iron ore, lithium has they've been a little bit weak here lately, but it does have some gold exposure and some other metals in there which are doing okay. So, again, interesting business, good valuation. Just probably needs to sort of hold above this 360 there in the next week there. I think that's a bit of a key zone there. If we can hold 360, might be able to sort of move higher here.
Gary, almost out of time. Let's jump out of materials, have a quick look at corporate travel management. That has been under a lot of pressure.
It has there, yeah. Look, obviously the European displacement business is sort of, they've sort of got canned there with the government policy there. But the last couple of updates have been pretty positive for corporate travel. Obviously, the rest of the business is travelling pretty well. But on technically, we can sort of start to see a bit of a basing pattern here. We've got our sort of low. First high low, sort of second high low, and now it's sort of third high low. So it's sort of starting to build a bit of a base here. So, if we go back and sort of look at ResMed, go back sort of 12, 18 months ago there after the Ozempic there, it's a similar sort of story there. Had to build a bit of a base before it got going here. So it's been a great business, corporate travel. Didn't have to raise any money through COVID there. We've got a pretty long-term growth sort of platform there. Love the sort of technical base building here. So I do like this one here. I think any sort of any sort of pullback in the range there would be one to look at pretty closely.
All right, just finally, look at Orica, the explosives firm. Trading, I guess, in something of a range there.
Yeah, look, it's that mining services and chemicals area has actually been pretty robust there. So a lot of stocks doing very well in that sort of segment. What I like here is that on the weekly chart, that's the old sort of high. So it's sort of bounced off the previous old high, but it's also just undercut the previous sort of swing low as well. So it's largely gone sideways here for the last 6 months, just undercut the low. It's kind of one of my sort of favourite technical patterns there is just to be in the top half nice and strong, but undercut the previous low here, and we've seen a bit of a bounce off of that range there. I think this morning might have had a bit of a throwback retested, but it has been strong. But it is a strong segment in the market. Technically sitting on top of the old high looks pretty good here longer term as well. So short term and long term technicals are looking pretty positive.
Gary, thanks for talking through the charts. Thanks for joining us from Novus Capital.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And that is the trade for this Monday.